Tom Wilson adjusted his tie for the fifth time as he stood outside the tall glass building. The morning sun reflected off the windows of TechFlow Solutions, making the structure look even more impressive than he had imagined. He took a deep breath and checked his watch. 8:30 in the morning, exactly 30 minutes before his scheduled interview. His hands were slightly shaking as he held his folder containing his resume and certificates. This was his 15th job interview in 6 months, and each rejection had made him more desperate. The bills were piling up at home and his daughter Emma needed new school shoes. The money he had saved was almost gone. Tom walked through the revolving door and entered the spacious lobby. Everything looked expensive and modern. The floors were made of polished marble, and the walls displayed awards and certificates. Young employees in sharp suits walked quickly across the lobby, talking on their phones or carrying laptops. Everyone seemed busy and successful. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you?" asked the receptionist, a young woman with a bright smile. "I have an interview at 9 o'clock." "My name is Tom Wilson," he replied, trying to sound confident. "Please take a seat. Someone will come to get you shortly," she said, pointing to a comfortable waiting area. Tom sat down and looked around. The chairs were leather and very comfortable. He picked up a business magazine from the coffee table and tried to read, but his mind kept wandering. He thought about Emma, who was probably getting ready for school right now. His neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, had agreed to take her to school this morning so he could attend the interview. Emma was 7 years old and the most important thing in his life. Her mother had left them when Emma was just 2 years old. Since then, it had been just the two of them against the world. Tom had worked hard to provide for his daughter, but losing his job 6 months ago had made everything difficult. His previous company, Datati Tech Systems, had been a small but successful software company. Tom had worked there for 8 years as a senior software engineer. He had been good at his job and had even developed several innovative solutions that saved the company money. But when a larger corporation bought Datati, they decided to move all operations to another city. Tom could not move because Emma was settled in her school and had friends there. At 10 minutes to 9, a woman in a business suit approached him. She was tall, with short brown hair, and looked to be in her 40s. "Mr. Wilson, I am Ms. Davis, the hiring manager." "Please follow me," she said in a professional tone. Tom stood up and followed her through a corridor lined with offices. Employees were working at their computers, and he could see multiple monitors and advanced equipment everywhere. This was exactly the kind of place where he wanted to work. They entered a conference room where two other people were waiting. Ms. Davis introduced them as Mr. Johnson from the technical department and Ms. Chin from human resources. Tom shook hands with everyone and sat down across from them. "Thank you for coming in today, Mr. Wilson," Ms. Davis began. "We have reviewed your resume and we would like to know more about your recent work experience." Tom opened his folder and took out copies of his resume. "I worked at Datati Systems for 8 years as a senior software engineer. I specialized in database management and system optimization. I developed several programs that improved efficiency by 30%. Mr. Johnson looked at the papers. "That sounds impressive, but I see you have been unemployed for 6 months. Can you explain this gap?" Tom had expected this question. Datati was acquired by another company, and they moved operations to Chicago. "I chose to stay here because of personal commitments." "Personal commitments?" asked Ms. Chin, raising an eyebrow. Tom hesitated for a moment. He knew that mentioning his daughter might affect his chances, but he believed in being honest. "I am a single father. My daughter is 7 years old, and I did not want to disrupt her education and social life by moving to another city." The three interviewers exchanged glances. Tom noticed their expressions change slightly. Ms. Davis made some notes on her paper. "I see," said Ms. Davis. "And how would you handle the demands of this position?" "We often require employees to work overtime, especially during project deadlines." "I am very committed to my work," Tom replied. "I have always met my deadlines and often worked extra hours when necessary. I am organized and efficient with my time management. But surely having a young child would create conflicts." Mr. Johnson said, "What if we need you to work late or come in on weekends?" Tom felt his heart sinking. He could see where this conversation was heading. "I have reliable childcare arrangements. My neighbor has been very helpful, and Emma is in an after-school program. I can be flexible when needed." Ms. Chin leaned forward. "Mr. Wilson, we appreciate your honesty about your situation. However, this is a very demanding position. We need someone who can be fully committed to the company's needs. I understand your concerns, Tom said, trying to keep his voice steady, but I believe my skills and experience make me an excellent candidate. I have references who can confirm my dedication and work ethic. Ms. Davis looked at his resume again. Your technical skills seem adequate, but we are looking for someone who can grow with the company, someone without external obligations that might interfere with their career advancement. Tom felt frustrated but tried to remain professional. I believe being a parent has actually made me more responsible and better at time management. I am highly motivated because I have someone depending on me. The interview continued for another 20 minutes, but Tom could tell that their minds were already made up. They asked technical questions, which he answered confidently, but their body language showed they were not really interested in his responses. Finally, Miss Davis closed her folder. Thank you for your time, Mr. Wilson. We will be in touch within a few days. Tom knew this was the polite way of saying no. He had heard these same words 14 times before. He stood up and shook hands with everyone. Thank you for considering me for this position, he said. I hope you will give my application serious consideration, Ms. Davis smiled politely. We will certainly consider all candidates carefully. Tom was escorted back to the lobby by Ms. Davis. As they walked, she said, Mr. Wilson, I hope you understand that we have to consider what is best for the company. Nothing personal. I understand, Tom replied, though he felt anything but understanding. He left the building and walked to his car, an old sedan that had seen better days. As he sat behind the wheel, he felt the familiar sting of rejection. He thought about Emma, who would ask him about the interview when he picked her up from school. What would he tell her this time? Tom started the car and was about to drive away when he noticed commotion inside the building. Through the large glass windows, he could see people running around. Employees were gathering around computer screens, looking worried and confused. He turned off the engine and watched as more people joined the groups. Some were talking on phones with urgent expressions. A man in an expensive suit who looked like he might be an executive was walking quickly from group to group, clearly agitated. Tom rolled down his window and could hear raised voices coming from the building. Someone shouted something about systems being down. Another person mentioned that nothing was working. As a software engineer, Tom recognized the signs of a major technical problem. It looked like their computer systems had crashed. This was exactly the kind of emergency he had handled many times at his previous job. More people in suits were arriving at the building, carrying equipment and laptops. They looked like outside consultants brought in to fix the problem. Tom watched as they hurried through the lobby with serious expressions. The man in the expensive suit, whom Tom now assumed was probably the CEO, was pacing back and forth in the lobby. Even from his car, Tom could see that the man was extremely stressed and angry. Tom thought about driving away and forgetting about this place that had just rejected him. But something made him stay and watch. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the satisfaction of seeing the company that had dismissed him now struggling with problems. As he watched the chaos unfold, Tom realized that this might be the biggest crisis TechFlow Solutions had ever faced. Whatever had gone wrong with their systems, it was clearly serious enough to bring in expensive consultants and cause panic among the staff. He looked at his phone and saw that he had 30 minutes before he needed to pick up Emma from school. Part of him wanted to leave and put this disappointing morning behind him, but another part of him was fascinated by the technical crisis unfolding before his eyes. Tom Wilson had no idea that this moment of curiosity would change everything for him and his daughter. He simply sat in his car watching and wondering what kind of problem could cause such chaos in a modern technology company. The rejection still stung, but now he was witnessing something much more dramatic than his failed interview. The same people who had dismissed him minutes ago were now dealing with what appeared to be a complete system failure. As he watched the frantic activity through the glass windows, Tom had no way of knowing that this crisis would soon become his opportunity for redemption. Tom remained in his car, watching the increasing chaos inside TechFlow Solutions. Through the large glass windows, he could see more employees gathering in the lobby. Their faces showed worry and confusion. Some were holding phones to their ears, speaking rapidly. Others were pointing at computer screens and shaking their heads. The man in the expensive suit, whom Tom now recognized as the company's CEO from photos he had seen on their website, was moving from group to group. His face was red with anger and stress. Tom could see him gesturing wildly as he spoke to different employees. More consultants arrived, carrying heavy equipment cases and multiple laptops. These were clearly expensive specialists, the kind of people companies called when they faced serious technical emergencies. Tom counted at least 6 different consultant teams entering the building within 10 minutes. His phone rang, breaking his concentration. The caller ID showed it was Mrs. Rodriguez, his neighbor. "Hello, Tom," came the familiar voice. "How did your interview go?" Tom sighed. "Not well, Mrs. Rodriguez. They said they would call, but I know they won't. I'm sorry to hear that, dear. But don't give up. Something better will come along." "I hope so. Is Emma okay?" "She's fine. I dropped her at school on time. She wanted me to tell you that she made you a good luck card for your interview. She's very excited to hear about it when she gets home." Tom felt his heart break a little. Emma always believed in him, even when he was starting to lose faith in himself. "Thank you for taking care of her. I'll pick her up at 3:30 as usual." "Take your time, Tom. And remember, things have a way of working out when we least expect them." After hanging up, Tom looked at his bank account on his phone. The numbers were depressing. He had enough money for rent for 3 more weeks, maybe 4 if he was very careful with expenses. After that, he would have to make some difficult decisions. He thought about Emma's good luck card waiting for him at home. She always made him little drawings and notes when he had important interviews. Her room was full of colorful pictures she had drawn of them together, always showing him in a suit going to work. She believed her father was the smartest man in the world, and Tom was terrified of disappointing her. His phone buzzed with a text message from another company he had applied to 2 weeks ago. "Thank you for your interest in our position. We have decided to move forward with other candidates." It was his 16th rejection in 6 months. Tom put his phone away and looked back at the building. The situation inside seemed to be getting worse. He could see people running from floor to floor. The elevators were constantly moving, and the stairwells were filled with employees carrying equipment. A news van pulled up across the street. A reporter and cameraman got out and started setting up their equipment. Word of TechFlow's crisis was apparently spreading beyond the company walls. This was becoming a public relations disaster as well as a technical one. Tom's experience told him that this was likely a major system failure. In his 8 years at Data Tech Systems, he had seen similar situations. Usually they involve corrupted databases, failed backup systems, or networking problems that cascaded through multiple connected systems. He remembered one particular incident at Datatech where their main customer database had become corrupted during a routine update. The entire company had panicked because they couldn't access any customer information. External consultants had worked for 12 hours without success. Finally, Tom had discovered that the problem was a simple indexing error that could be fixed with just a few commands. The same chaos he was watching now had happened at his old company, but on a smaller scale. The difference was that TechFlow Solutions was much larger, which meant their crisis was probably affecting thousands of customers and costing them enormous amounts of money. Through the windows, Tom could see the consultants working frantically at computer terminals. They had set up multiple workstations in the lobby and were connecting various devices to the network. Despite their expensive equipment and apparent expertise, the panicked expressions on everyone's faces suggested they were not making progress. Another hour passed. Tom knew he should leave, but something kept him watching. Maybe it was professional curiosity, or maybe it was a strange sense of satisfaction seeing the company that had rejected him facing such difficulties. His phone rang again. This time it was Emma's school. "Mr. Wilson, this is Mrs. Patterson from Green Valley Elementary. Emma is fine, but she fell during recess and skinned her knee. She's asking for you." Tom's parental instincts kicked in immediately. "Is she hurt badly? Does she need medical attention?" "No, it's just a scraped knee. We cleaned it and put a bandage on it, but she's crying and wants her daddy." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Tom said, already starting his car. "Actually, Mr. Wilson, she's calmed down now. She said she wants to wait until regular pickup time because she doesn't want to interrupt your important work meeting." Tom smiled despite his stress. Emma was always thinking about others even when she was hurt. "Are you sure she's okay?" "She's fine. She's actually helping the nurse organize supplies now. That little girl has such a caring heart." After hanging up, Tom realized that Emma's accident could have been much worse. What if she had been seriously injured? He had no health insurance since losing his job. The COBRA payments from his previous employer were too expensive for his current budget. One serious medical emergency could bankrupt them completely. The stress of his situation hit him all at once. He was a single father with no income, dwindling savings, and no prospects for employment. 16 companies had rejected him, and his skills seemed to mean nothing to potential employers once they learned about his family situation. Tom looked back at TechFlow Solutions and saw even more consultant teams arriving. These companies charge thousands of dollars per hour, and yet the crisis seemed to be continuing. He could see the CEO on his phone, pacing back and forth with increasing agitation. A crazy thought entered Tom's mind. What if he knew how to fix their problem? What if his experience at Daytate Tech had taught him something these expensive consultants didn't know? He shook his head and dismissed the idea. Why would they listen to someone they had just rejected for a job? But the thought wouldn't go away. Tom had always been good at diagnosing system problems. He had a natural ability to see patterns and connections that others missed. At Data Tech, his colleagues had often called him when they couldn't solve technical issues. He watched as more equipment was brought into the building. The consultants seemed to be trying different approaches, but nothing appeared to be working. The CEO was now surrounded by a group of executives, all looking extremely stressed. Tom's phone showed that it was almost noon. The crisis had been going on for over 2 hours, which meant it was costing TechFlow enormous amounts of money. Every minute their systems were down, they were losing business and damaging their reputation. He thought about Emma again. She was counting on him to find a job and provide for them. She didn't understand why Daddy was home every day now instead of going to work like other parents. She had started drawing pictures of their apartment instead of houses with yards because she somehow sensed that their living situation was temporary and uncertain. The news reporter across the street was now doing a live broadcast, pointing at the TechFlow building. Tom could imagine the headlines: "Major tech company faces system crisis," or "TechFlow Solutions unable to solve own technical problems." For a company that prided itself on providing technical solutions to other businesses, this public failure was devastating. Their stock price was probably falling, and their customers were likely looking for alternative service providers. Tom made a decision. He would stay and watch for a little while longer, not because he planned to get involved, but because he was genuinely curious about what kind of problem could stump so many experts. His professional pride was engaged, even though his personal feelings were hurt by the morning's rejection. As he watched the continuing chaos, Tom had no idea that the next hour would change everything for him and Emma. He simply sat in his car, observing the crisis and thinking about the technical challenges the company was facing. The same building that had rejected him that morning was now the scene of the biggest professional disaster he had ever witnessed. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Tom was starting to form ideas about what might be causing their problems. But he pushed those thoughts away. He was just an unemployed single father sitting in an old car, watching other people's problems from a distance. He had his own crisis to worry about, and it was time to go pick up his daughter from school. Yet something made him stay just a little longer, watching and wondering if the solution to TechFlow's problem might be simpler than anyone imagined. Tom checked his watch again. It was 12:30 and he needed to pick up Emma from school in 3 hours. The crisis at TechFlow Solutions had been going on for more than 3 hours now, and the situation seemed to be getting worse instead of better. Through the glass windows, he could see that even more people had arrived. The lobby was now crowded with consultants, executives, and employees. Multiple computer workstations had been set up, and cables ran across the floor in every direction. Despite all this activity, the expressions on everyone's faces showed that no progress was being made. Tom watched as the CEO, Mr. Roberts, threw his hands up in frustration while talking to a group of consultants. The man looked exhausted and desperate. Tom could imagine the pressure he was under. Every minute the systems remained down was costing the company money and damaging their reputation. A new group of consultants arrived, these carrying even more advanced equipment. Tom counted the vehicles in the parking lot and estimated that at least 50 specialists had been called in to solve this problem. The cost of all these experts was probably tens of thousands of dollars per hour. Despite his hurt feelings about the morning's rejection, Tom felt a growing sense of professional curiosity. What kind of problem could stump so many experienced technicians? In his 8 years at Data Tech Systems, he had encountered many similar situations, and most had simpler solutions than people initially thought. His phone rang. It was his daughter's school again. "Mr. Wilson, this is Mrs. Patterson again. Emma is asking if you found a job today. She wants to know if you can afford to buy her the art supplies for her school project." Tom's heart sank. Emma needed colored pencils and poster board for a presentation due next week. He had been hoping to buy them after getting this job, but that plan had failed. "Tell her I'm still working on it. I'll figure something out. She also said to tell you that she believes in you and knows you're the smartest daddy in the world." After hanging up, Tom felt a surge of determination. Emma believed in him completely, and he couldn't let her down. He had to find a way to provide for his daughter, no matter what it took. He looked back at TechFlow Solutions and made a decision that would change everything. He couldn't just sit in his car feeling sorry for himself while watching other people struggle with a problem he might be able to solve. Even if they had rejected him that morning, his professional ethics demanded that he at least try to help. Tom got out of his car and walked toward the building. His hands were shaking slightly, but his resolve was strong. He had nothing left to lose, and Emma needed him to be brave. The lobby was even more chaotic than it had appeared from outside. Dozens of people were working frantically at computer terminals, talking on phones, and running between different workstations. The noise level was overwhelming, with multiple conversations happening simultaneously. Tom approached the security desk where a guard was trying to manage the crowd of consultants and visitors. "Excuse me," Tom said, "I need to speak with someone about the technical problem you're having." The guard barely looked up from his paperwork. "Are you with one of the consultant teams?" "No, but I have experience with this type of system failure. I might be able to help." "Sorry, sir. Only authorized personnel are allowed past the lobby during this emergency." Tom tried a different approach. "Could you please call Mr. Roberts? Tell him that Tom Wilson is here and believes he can solve the problem." The guard shook his head. "Mr. Roberts is extremely busy right now. He's not taking any calls from people who aren't directly involved in fixing this crisis." Tom felt frustrated but didn't give up. He stood near the security desk and observed the activity around him. From what he could hear of the various conversations, it sounded like a complete database failure. Multiple people were talking about corrupted files, failed backups, and cascade system errors. 15 minutes passed. Tom was about to leave when he heard someone shouting near the elevators. Mr. Roberts had emerged from an elevator and was walking rapidly across the lobby, clearly agitated. "This is unacceptable," Mr. Roberts was saying to a group of consultants following him. "We've been paying you people for 4 hours, and you're no closer to solving this problem than when you started." "Sir, we're doing everything possible," one of the consultants replied. "This is an extremely complex failure involving multiple interconnected systems. I don't want excuses. I want solutions. Our biggest investor presentation is in 2 hours, and if we can't access our client database, we'll lose the biggest contract in our company's history." Tom realized this was his chance. He stepped forward, approaching the group. "Excuse me, Mr. Roberts," he said respectfully. Mr. Roberts turned around, his face red with stress and anger. "Who are you? How did you get past security?" "My name is Tom Wilson. I was interviewed here this morning for the software engineer position. I believe I can fix your system problem." Mr. Roberts stared at him for a moment, then looked at Ms. Davis, who had appeared beside him. "Isn't this the candidate we decided not to hire?" Ms. Davis nodded, looking embarrassed. "Yes, sir." "Mr. Wilson, I'm not sure this is an appropriate time." "Wait a minute," Mr. Roberts interrupted, his desperation overcoming his skepticism. "You think you can fix this when 50 of the best consultants in the city can't?" Tom nodded calmly. "I've seen this type of failure before. Based on what I've observed and heard, I believe your problem is simpler than everyone thinks." Mr. Roberts looked at the lead consultant, who shrugged helplessly. "Sir, we've tried everything standard protocol suggests. At this point, we're looking at a complete system rebuild, which could take days." "Days," Mr. Roberts exploded. "We'll be bankrupt in days." He turned back to Tom. "What exactly do you think the problem is?" "I suspect it's a corrupted database index causing a cascade failure through your integrated systems," Tom explained. It's a common problem that looks much more serious than it actually is. The solution usually involves rebuilding the primary index tables and resetting the connection protocols. The lead consultant laughed dismissively. Sir, we've already checked all the obvious solutions. This is clearly beyond the scope of basic troubleshooting. Mr. Roberts looked back and forth between Tom and the consultant. His company was losing money every second, and his biggest business opportunity was about to disappear. How long would it take you to check your theory? He asked Tom. Give me 5 minutes at a terminal connected to your main server, Tom replied confidently. Ms. Davis stepped forward. Sir, I don't think this is wise. Mr. Wilson doesn't have clearance to access our systems. And if he makes a mistake, we're not any worse off than we are now, Mr. Roberts snapped. He turned to Tom. 5 minutes, but if you cause any additional problems, I'll have you arrested. Tom nodded. I understand. Mr. Roberts led Tom to a workstation that had been set up by the consultants. Multiple monitors showed various system diagnostics and error messages. Tom sat down and began typing rapidly. The crowd of consultants and executives gathered around to watch. Tom ignored them and focused on the screens. Within 2 minutes, he had navigated to the database management system and identified the problem. There, he said, pointing to a specific error code. Your primary customer index table is corrupted, but the system is trying to rebuild it using backup files that are also corrupted. It's creating an infinite loop that's crashing your entire network. We checked that already, one of the consultants said. You checked the main table, but you didn't check the backup validation files. The system won't accept the rebuild until these 3 files are manually reset, Tom replied. Tom's fingers flew across the keyboard. He accessed a command line interface and began typing a series of complex commands. The room fell silent as everyone watched. First, I need to stop the automated rebuild process, Tom explained as he worked. Then I'll manually delete the corrupted backup validation files and force the system to create new ones from the archive. Within 3 minutes, Tom had executed a series of commands that none of the consultants had thought to try. He pressed the enter key for the final command and leaned back. That should do it, he said quietly. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then one by one, the error messages on the screens began disappearing. Green status lights started appearing where red ones had been. The sound of computer systems coming back online could be heard throughout the building. My computer is working, someone shouted from across the lobby. The customer database is back online, called another voice. All systems are operational, confirmed a technician. The room erupted in cheers and applause. Mr. Roberts stared at the screens in amazement, then at Tom. How did you do that in 3 minutes when they couldn't do it in 4 hours? Tom stood up from the workstation. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the correct one. The consultants were looking for complex solutions to what turned out to be a basic indexing problem. Mr. Roberts turned to the lead consultant. You're fired. Send me your bill for the 4 hours you wasted and then get out of my building. The consultant tried to argue, but Mr. Roberts had already turned away. He faced Tom with a completely different expression than he had shown that morning. Mr. Wilson, when can you start working here? Tom blinked in surprise. Sir, you just saved my company millions of dollars and prevented the biggest disaster in our history. I want to offer you a position immediately. Ms. Davis stepped forward looking uncomfortable. Sir, we already decided that Mr. Wilson wasn't suitable for our company culture. Mr. Roberts glared at her. What exactly was unsuitable about someone who can solve in 3 minutes what cost us 4 hours and $50,000 in consultant fees? Well, he has a child, and we felt that might interfere with his commitment. His commitment? Mr. Roberts interrupted. He just demonstrated more commitment to solving problems than anyone else in this building. Ms. Davis, your judgment in hiring is clearly questionable. He turned back to Tom. Mr. Wilson, I'm offering you the position of senior systems engineer with a starting salary of $90,000 per year, full benefits, including health insurance, and flexible working arrangements to accommodate your family needs. Tom felt dizzy. $90,000 was more than he had ever earned in his life. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Mr. Roberts smiled for the first time that day, and there's a signing bonus of $10,000 available immediately. Tom thought about Emma waiting at school, about the art supplies she needed, about the rent money that was running out. Yes, sir, I accept. The lobby erupted in applause again. Employees who had witnessed the crisis and its resolution were clapping and cheering. Even some of the remaining consultants were applauding Tom's achievement. Mr. Roberts shook Tom's hand firmly. "Welcome to TechFlow Solutions, Tom. When can you start?" "I can start tomorrow morning," Tom replied, still hardly believing what was happening. "Excellent. Ms. Davis will handle your paperwork and get you set up with everything you need." As the crowd dispersed and normal operations resumed, Tom called Mrs. Rodriguez to share the incredible news. Then he called Emma's school. "Mrs. Patterson, this is Tom Wilson. Please tell Emma that Daddy found a great job today. And yes, we can definitely buy those art supplies." When Tom picked up Emma from school that afternoon, she ran to him with her arms wide open. "Daddy," Mrs. Patterson said, "you got it, Are you happy now?" Tom hugged his daughter tightly. "I'm very happy, sweetheart, and we're going to be just fine." That evening, as Emma worked on her art project with her new supplies, Tom reflected on how quickly everything had changed. The same company that had rejected him in the morning had become his salvation by afternoon. He had learned that sometimes the biggest opportunities come disguised as the worst rejections, and sometimes the most valuable skills are the simplest ones that others overlook. Most importantly, he had proven to himself and his daughter that persistence, knowledge, and courage could overcome any obstacle. Emma's faith in her father had been justified, and their future was now secure. The single father who had been rejected at a job interview had become the hero who saved the company from disaster. And in doing so, he had saved his own family's future as well.